What's up, guys? Here I am again, and today I'm here at Stuppy Inc., where I work, and I'm bringing here with me Todd Beeler. Todd Beeler is the engineer manager for Stuppy, and he has a very interesting work and life experience that I would like him to tell you guys a little bit about it. And with that, let's just start it. So, Todd, thanks for your time to talk to the guys in Brazil. So let's just start it. So you told me, I talked to you yesterday, and you told me a little bit about your work experience.
Yep.
And just like the Drake song, you started from the bottom, now you're here.
Yeah.
So
my way up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you did work in the warehouse, and and tell like people about a little bit about you, how you started and how you got to the position that you are right now.
So I back in high school, I used to work here at the warehouse. We did that in the summertime, and so I was out there packing nuts and bolts and picking parts, and I was even welding there for a while, so loading trucks, things like that. So we were doing that for a couple summers in a row for sure. And then finally went to college and did some of that stuff. But then in between that, I went and started working for a company called Jamison Construction. So he's actually one of our builders that we're still using right now. Is Norm Jamison.
He's watching right now.
He probably is watching. But so I started working for him, actually going out building greenhouses. So so I first got my taste of greenhouses is being in that warehouse, but then going out and actually physically building greenhouses, learning from a master carpenter, how to do this kind of stuff, how it goes together, what's the name of the parts, things like that. And so then I came up from there. Then I did a little stint in the military, and then I kind of came back to Stuppy's after that. And there was a job opening for someone in the technical support field. And so I went ahead and applied for the job, and because I had all the background from working in the warehouse and actually being a builder, I was able to kind of step right into that role. So that's kind of how I started out. So I'm talking to builders, they call in having a problem. I'm there to help figure out how to make it work or fix it or get them the material they need to continue. And so from there, kind of worked up from that. So as you're working here at Stuppy's, I mean, I'm sure it's the same everywhere, that if you're driven, you will start picking up other things as people maybe leave. Like, all right, so this guy left, so somebody's got to pick up his job, and so you kind of start picking those things up. So I started, after doing tech support, I started to learn to do AutoCAD. So now I'm drawing, and then I'm doing actual projects where I'm doing all the menus and picking all the parts for it, and then eventually I was kind of doing all of it. And then eventually they said, well, we might as well make you a manager of it. So that's how I became the manager.
So yeah, that's very interesting, because like you were learning and growing, and when you saw the opportunity, you just took chance. Like you took the chance and then took the position and started growing from there. That's
oh my gosh.
Cut.
You gotta cut that part out. All right. So that was. That's kind of how I got where I am now. So now I manage the engineering department here. I have 3 engineers. I have 1 engineer tech. I have a couple drafters, and then myself. So we have a really good team here, and I got to hand pick every one of them. So that was nice.
That's nice. That's nice. All right. So changing gears a little bit, I wanted to talk about that experience that you have on the Marines. You told me about it, and I was super impressed. It was super interesting. So do you want to tell them a little bit about that as well?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I served in the Marine Corps from 1989 to 1995. the experience you're talking about happened in 1993 to 1994. I was on the USS Cayuga, which is a LST, and I have a group of Marines on a ship with a bunch of sailors, and we were at sea for, well, I guess it was like a 7-month trip before we got back, but we got to go to a lot of different ports while we were there. The one that we had talked about was we were in Hong Kong on the day that they had, there's a movie they made of it called Black Hawk Down. And so they was in Somalia, and they had shot a couple of our Black Hawk helicopters down while they were trying to go get these warlords, and it didn't really go that well for us. So there's a movie out there if you want to watch it. I wasn't there on that day, so I didn't have to be in any of that, but I did get there a few days later with our ship and spent some time there at the old port, and yeah, it was crazy. But yeah. But the funny thing about that was on our way back, so we were coming back, it would be the beginning of March 1994, and we stopped in Hawaii. And I had remembered this after we had talked, that there were some Brazilian officials that came on the boat, and they had said, well, these guys are coming on here because they want to buy the ship. And I was looking at that the other night. I looked it up, and sure enough, that was the last trip we had on the USS Cayuga, and now it is owned by Brazil's Navy.
Yeah.
And what was the name of it now?
Matoso Maia. É o navio Matoso Maia, que está lá no Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, so isn't that crazy? So you guys, so Brazil has the ship that I was on when I was on my tour.
Yeah,
so
that's
neat.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to make this too long. Okay, so we talked a little bit about your life here, work life, a little bit of work experience, personal experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so a little bit, a lot of people that watching us, they're engineers as well, and they want to study and work here at some time, and they look for advice for people that are here, and they have that daily activity in survive of this. You as a manager, you like you said, you picked everyone in here, so you kind of know like what kind of things to look for someone in engineering. So do you want to give that people advice what they should be doing, and just advice in general for people that wanted to come to the U.S.
Okay. Yeah, so when we do interviewing here, it's we basically sit you down and kind of go through what your work experiences are, and hopefully it's something that will mesh with what we do here. We'll definitely drill you with questions on basically to test your knowledge, your skill base, to see if you really know it or if you're just telling me you know it. So we're gonna try and find that out.
There's a big difference, right?
Yeah. One of the other things that we had talked about and I had asked you about is when did you learn how to speak English? Because you speak English very well and you're very understandable. And I've interviewed a lot of people that come from other countries, and from time to time you get someone in that it's really difficult to understand what they're saying. And so that would be something key for us when we're hiring someone, is that we can understand you, and that you can be understood over the phone, because we do a lot of technical support over the phone. And so to be able to speak fluently but also be able to speak clear enough so that someone in the United States would be able to understand you. Now, having dual language, that's great too.
Yeah.
So like in our department here, I actually have one of my employees is Vietnamese, so he speaks fluent Vietnamese, but he also speaks English. Carlos speaks Spanish. He's actually from Cuba, but he also speaks pretty good English. You speak very good English.
I'm from Brazil.
Yeah, so that is definitely something you got to think about. So if you're thinking about wanting to come here, taking those English classes is definitely going to help you in the long run.
Yeah.
And Brady had mentioned, one of my other engineers, that when Carlos came, that we could tell that he knew his stuff, but his English was pretty good, but probably not as good as your English. And so we kind of felt like he was unconfident in his English, and it kind of made him seem unconfident.
Like
even though
he knows what he's talking about, but
does.
because of he doesn't have the fluency necessary, he didn't sound so sure about it.
Right. So it can make a difference in just
Yes.
the way that you're presenting.
Yes.
So we would encourage you to, work on your English, make sure that you're confident in it, and that way you'll be confident when you're in the interview. Always answer the questions the best you can. Another thing I would recommend, and I always look at this when I'm doing an interview, is at the very end of that interview, did they ask me any questions? Because I'm going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? And sometimes I'll get, no, I don't have any questions. Well, that to me is a red flag. They don't want to know anything about me. They don't want to know anything about the company that we're working for, the job he's going to do. That's a red flag. So if you want to, keep all your flags in the green, ask a question. I don't care what the question is. Maybe, hey, what's the weather like here in middle of Missouri? It's crazy. That's the answer. But, ask a question or ask two questions and make sure you have those prepared. That way we can, answer those questions for you, and we feel like that you're, showing interest in us and where we're at. So.
Awesome. That was a good answer, because like there's a lot of people that talk to me like they wanna know how to come to the US, and I ask them like, hey, what about your English? Are you ready to work here? Because there's a difference between knowing like the daily activities, like just talk like the street language, other than like talking to a client and like explaining them where the pieces and parts where they go, how the structure works. And stuff like this. It's a very different skill set.
You can pick up all the slang language once you get here. It just comes naturally. You just pick it up. So but definitely, it's good to know.
Awesome. Thanks again, Todd. It was a great interview, and I appreciate your time, sir.
Get back to work.
Thank you.
Was that 5 questions?